Okay, so I'm going to, there's going to be a short intro song. It's about 20 seconds.
Okay.
Hey, it's the first episode, so I'm going to jump right into it. My name's Kyle, and we're here to talk about directors that have come back for whatever reason and added some more footage or taken some footage away from their films, and what we got is another cut. So we're going to talk about, is it worth it? Does it make it better? Are the right questions to ask? Does it even matter? I'm going to have a very special guest today. I'm honored to have him. You know him from the Reilly Roundtable, from Reilly's Cantina, and Camp Blood. He's probably the biggest Superman fan I know, Mr. Mark Reilly. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Biggest Superman fan ever. I'll take it.
Definitely.
So glad to be here, Kyle. Thanks for having me to talk about this. This is a good one.
Of course, yeah. I know you've talked about this movie and whether it's better than Justice League before on one of your shows, and I thought maybe you'd want to come and discuss whether or not that the Ultimate Edition kind of makes a difference than this theatrical edition. Is it a better movie? Is that a valid question to be asking about a movie? Like, does it make it better because there's more footage of it? Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. It's always the big question. If why would a director need to go back and add these things? Isn't it already done? But sometimes studio and the different politics involved can get in the way. But I love it when a director can go back and we can see and we can compare these two things.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. What is there anything big that jumps out at you from the Ultimate Edition? That the first thing that changed, that Zack's changed, or anything like that? Anything that jumps out of your mind?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I think if you look at it, if you watch it, if you have a passing knowledge of seeing the original or the theatrical release, if you will, you know that this Ultimate Edition has a lot more Superman, and I can say that with a lot of confidence because I am the biggest Superman fan in the world. That's the biggest change for me, is that we actually get to see a lot more of Superman. We get a bigger kind of introduction to how Zack Snyder was weaving in a story of how to frame Superman in Africa. So we get a lot more action in Africa, which is at the beginning of the movie, and just Superman being super a little bit, as well as Clark Kent being able to go to Gotham and investigate. And these are some broad strokes I'm putting out there. But if you want my honest reaction, it was like, more Superman, thank you. That makes a lot more sense for me.
Yeah, and I think that the way he integrated him back into the scenes, and it's interesting because some of the scenes are, they take the TV and they'll take out, one of them is the bat symbol. When the people that are getting thrown into prison are getting judged and the bat symbol is getting branded on them, they change one of those scenes into one of the women that are testifying from Africa. So it reconnects Superman into that scene, and though a lot of those scenes get added in to kind of recontextualize that, because when I was watching the theatrical version again for first time in a long time, I was watching it, I was like, wait a sec, I don't understand how they think. It seems like more of a power vacuum that Superman left in Africa. Not like he killed all these people. We know that he probably killed the warlord, but it seemed like it was more like, oh, some other people came in and attacked the village and stuff like that. But with the Ultimate Edition, they really flesh that out, and you get a little more time to breathe in that space and learn that no, they really thought that Superman killed all of these people in the village and attacked everybody. And it was really interesting to see.
It was very interesting, and it wasn't clear the first time I watched it with the theatrical. So when I did get the Ultimate, later when it first came out, but rewatching it, it really does need that clarification. It's a convoluted story. I think it really does set up the movie a lot better, and I enjoyed it a whole lot better because it has some little intrigue. It has some thriller aspects. It's comic booky, but it's grounded somewhat, and that's what I really enjoyed, fleshing that especially that first part out.
Yeah. What did you think of Jimmy Olsen CIA agent Jimmy Olsen getting shot in the head real quick.
See, I've always been a fan of this. And I'm doing my research for this and talking about it. You know, he did do a Vero hangout to discuss some of this recently because it is the 4-year anniversary.
It's a good watch. I watched it. It was very good.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to watch along with them, but I did get some highlights. And paraphrasing here, but I think it's important to make Superman and create the stakes. I'm with Zack Snyder on this one. Sometimes you got to get rid of some of those supporting characters that mean so much, and the mythology of a Superman lover like me. When Jimmy Olsen is taken out and you reinvent him as a CIA operative and he's taken out, the stakes go through the roof. Nobody's safe, which I think later on lends itself to the idea of he's setting up Justice League, which ultimately had something to do with Lois Lane. We can talk about that later. Put a pin in that. But it does add to Superman's kind of character arc to lose these major characters, especially for, I believe, the audience, which is the main reason why you have to please us, if you will. It puts us Superman fans on shaky ground. Jimmy Olsen's taken out. Uh-oh. Nobody's safe in Superman's world. Therefore, the stakes are raised, and you're a little bit more on edge of your seat. I love it. I actually really, really enjoyed the idea that Jimmy Olsen is this way.
Yeah. And
he's just taken out of the story. I think it was a bold move, and I think you need to do that in these adaptations, especially big screen adaptations, where we're going to, sooner or later, we're going to get another Superman movie down the line.
Hopefully.
Let's do something different in this one. Yeah.
One would hope. But yeah.
One would hope.
Yeah.
Right, Warner Brothers, one would hope.
It was very interesting. On the Vero thing, he said that. I was like, is Jimmy, like he talks about, is Jimmy still alive, jokingly? Like, could he have survived a gunshot wound to the head? Right? And he said, well, maybe if there were 4 or 5, if this was a TV show, or if there were 4 or 5 more movies, right? But with the amount of story that he was given, he thought that was probably the best way to introduce and like you said, show how that affects more the audience, because I don't feel that Jimmy knows Superman, if at all. Like, very well, if at all.
No.
Like, maybe met him once, but like it never really like got to know him. It's more for the audience to know that, like you said, like anybody that's close to Superman could be in danger if we're just gonna kill off somebody like Jimmy Olsen.
Right. There's 2 ways to look at it. You know, we, as you mentioned, and we talked about here, we the fans know the character, so he's off, and we're like, whoa, okay, this is a different kind of Superman story. We're not going to lean heavily into the source material and follow it to a T. So Jimmy Olsen would have to then get to know Superman like you were talking about, Kyle. He's got to get to know him for it to be the relationship we know in our head, which is, you know, Jimmy Olsen like, hey, Jimmy, you know, be careful out there. Okay, gosh, Superman, okay, thanks, man. No, this is a completely different Superman-Jimmy relationship that never grew to be what we knew it to be. So I'm fine that they offed him so fast.
Definitely. I wanted to go back just a little bit. There's only like a little thing that gets added to the very beginning, but it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is when Bruce Wayne runs into a cloud of smoke and just basically starts, he's Batman, but he's without the suit, and he starts saving people. And it's a little shot that's added where he picks up a little girl and puts her back in a line of these daycare workers before he goes and saves Scoot McNairy over there. And it's just, I think it's just another nice little touch that adds to Bruce, and really what I think like is the crux of the movie for his hatred of Superman. Like, it's not that he hates Superman. It's just that the only thing he knows about him is the destruction he's caused upon his city and his people and his world, and that he is a danger. Like, he could be good, but he is definitely a danger. And that sets up the rest of the movie, that up until a point where he has to overcome it at a certain point. And I think it's just it's a great opening. And I think that it's just, I think the Ultimate Edition does is give this whole movie room to breathe in every little scene. Like, it's more extended scenes than added scenes even. Like, it's just, they chopped off so much at certain points that it was just like, like, oh, rewatching the theatrical is like, it's like, oh, that's weird. That's missing. It really shows the power of editing.
It really does, and sometimes I enjoy having that. Even though some people could call it filler, that shot that you mentioned of Bruce Wayne just putting another kid back into line just shows like meticulous. He's specific. He's going to help everybody. He is going to run in. That's a hero, right? He's running towards the danger and not away from it. Doesn't need a suit for it. I like those additions that just add a little bit more flavor to it. I'll take my movies a little bit longer because of it.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the other big changes of the entire movie is, and to everybody that apparently watches it says it too, is Lois Lane. Lois Lane is given a lot more to work with and a lot more to do in the Ultimate Edition than she is the theatrical cut. And I think it really serves her purpose, because Amy Adams, if she had brunette hair, she'd be literally like the comic book Lois Lane. Like, she's like perfect. She sounds like I would think Lois sounds. She acts like she acts. And she's just like, oh, she's not a brunette. That's it. That's all that really separates her from me. So it's just, I really enjoy the way she plays it. And it's really interesting because the scenes of Lois and Swanwick, who I don't think is Martian Manhunter as much as Zack Snyder likes to say he is, because Martian Manhunter.
I know they were setting it up, but
he wouldn't stand around.
I don't see it in the text yet.
He wouldn't stand around. Like I get it, but like if Doomsday's there, I don't think Martian Manhunter's not joining in. And Steppenwolf later in Justice League, like I get that's what he wanted to do.
Could be, right.
He might have wanted to do it, but I think that Lois Lane, I think, got a lot of great stuff to work with, and they solidified her storyline a lot better with the editing, I think, in the Ultimate Cut than with theatrical. It was a little jumpy in the theatrical cut.
They're. You said it, Kyle. It's like the Lois Lane, make her a little bit more brunette, and she's like the comic personification of the character. Because Lois is doing a lot more in this, as you said, and I like the fact that she kind of is able to figure out, you get more information on Luthor's plan and what Wally was doing and how Wally was going to deliver the bomb in the wheelchair. Like, Lois was able to figure all of that out right as it was, like, happening. So it's like Lois is, like, very active, very smart. The Lois Lane we know and love. And, again, it's, Zack's playing with a big movie here. A lot of big ideas that maybe some people could argue you could do a Man of Steel 2 before you get a Batman v Superman. But, that extended cut, the Ultimate Edition now, helps alleviate some of that clutter and makes it more clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, on the kind of, I think it's like Lex is... Like, I kind of want to bring up Lex just because it was weird watching. I watched the theatrical and then the Ultimate back-to-back, and I think for sure that lots of Lex stuff was cut from the Ultimate because he seems a lot like, I think they take away a couple of the weirder mannerisms that he gets down to, and it's just he's still a little awkward and a little weird, but I think I like it. Like, I like it a little bit, and I think he was going for something that he could have gotten to if he was given the chance, I think, like, because he got to the real Lex at the very end of the movie, right? And it's like,
right.
On Vero, Zack Snyder was like, yeah, we gave him the red hair. And I'm like, is that red or is that blonde hair? Because it's like, it's not like, it's pretty, it's like strawberry blonde. I get that. But it's like, it's like very, very wiggy. And it like... But
yeah, it is very wiggy.
But I think that, like, other than the Jolly Rancher scene is egregious. But other than that, I think that, like, this manic kind of almost socially awkward kind of young genius billionaire Lex is a very interesting character that I wish we could have gotten a little more to do with.
Yeah, if we talk about Lex, we could hang out for a while with Jesse Eisenberg and talk about this random thing that happened out there in the world of pop culture, right? We get this version of Lex Luthor. Man, I appreciate the swing, and I always have, that Zack Snyder decided to make this version of Lex Luthor, but it's not going to work for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me 100% of the time, but I do appreciate some of it. And yeah, I was wondering some of the changes that could be made for Lex in this, and he seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean, I could probably follow your lead a bit because you watched him back to back. He's for me, the one that stands out the most is like him communing with Steppenwolf, which does set up the Justice League movie. It was supposed to do a lot better, but here we are. Justice League podcast for another time, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll get the Snyder cut.
Yeah, right. That's a lot of people are
wood.
hoping for that thing, including me, man. Give that Snyder cut
as well as that.
You're leaving money on the table. I think people would watch the hell out of that thing.
I think it's gonna be HBO Now or whatever that streaming service. I think that's gonna be
Max.
Yeah, Max. I think it's gonna be a day one thing because I think everybody's still gonna be at home for whatever reason. They're still at home, and I think it's basically gonna be a thing that like everybody's gonna sit down and watch that because it's been so talked about, and they're all gonna sign up for HBO Now or Max.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, except in Canada, where we won't have it.
Right.
So is there anything else that like really stuck out to you out of the Ultimate Edition that you thought that like changed from the theatrical cut that really
I mean, it is just a lot more Superman. That's the one that stands out, where you actually get to see Clark Kent do a lot more and be the reporter. You know that Clark Kent could be a good reporter. You know that Lois Lane can be the best reporter. They add more of that. So that exists in a world for me. Adding on to this in the Ultimate Cut gives me a little bit of a taste of what more Man of Steel, i.e. Man of Steel 2, could do. But I know we're balancing out some more Batman stuff and adding Batman. He's also setting up Justice League. Like, don't make no mistake. This movie is a direct, like, we're setting it up.
Yeah.
And so, we might have, and I know the comparisons are always there. It's like, well, Marvel did this. It's like, listen, we're here now, years later, 4 years later with this, and you judge it for what it is, which I love. I love this movie. I do. Yeah. It's so much more dense and so much more clear when you watch the Ultimate Cut. Like, all the goodness that was added to it. And, even the little throwaways. I remember Jon Stewart is added. He has a little special appearance as like the Daily Show host.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you see a little bit of the setup of that football game that starts between Gotham and Metropolis, because I know he was using that to set up Cyborg and all these different things they're there. It's just that this is a more complete cut for me, a more complete movie, I should say.
Yeah, and those are scenes that, like, now that you mention it, it's like those are scenes that they literally like are cut, like partially cut from the theatrical version. Like the Gotham football scene, like that opens up and then goes into the chimney of bats that opens up in the theatrical cut. It starts in the chimney of bats, and you miss the car coming up and everything like that. And it's just very interesting to see that it's just somebody, I guess it's somebody at Warner Brothers didn't want it to breathe, and it needed to be under 3 hours. Like, that seemed to be like the running consensus for years now since it came out, is that somebody decided that 3 hours was too long for a type of movie like this and that nobody would see it. And then
I think, and I wish they didn't do it the way they did. They gave Zack Snyder the keys to the DC universe. He was setting it up. He started with Man of Steel. It was obvious he was going into Batman v Superman. Then we had Patty Jenkins with Wonder Woman. And then he was going to do 2 Justice League movies. They tasked him with setting up this insanely creative, convoluted, complex world. And he was doing that with Batman v Superman. And the Ultimate Cut should give you a better glimpse into what he was doing. Yeah. Which is a lot. And I think Warner Brothers came in and they saw the reaction to this movie. I wish they would have released the Ultimate Cut. I think maybe let the audience decide if they wanted more sweaty goodness from the DC world. Get in there, get deeper, learn more about Superman and, Lois Lane, all that world with Superman. You get more Superman in there. I don't know if the audience would have responded better. It made around 800 million or so when it came out, but this is unfortunately they should have let Snyder finish, but they jumped the gun. Yeah. And they judged it. They went up, and they midstream, him shooting Justice League, he's gone halfway through. So this is the fascinating look at the what if Zack Snyder had his way through Justice League. So it'll be forever that story.
What if he had more of his way, but say the Ultimate Cut, would that be his director's cut would not be R-rated then? Like they would not
Right.
like would they not release an R-rated Batman versus Superman? They wouldn't release an R-rated Batman versus Superman movie in theaters. Like even after Deadpool, that like I don't think that they would risk that with a Superman. So they would definitely
Right.
trim it down a little bit. But
Yeah.
would they only trim it like if they gave him what he wanted to do and only went like, okay, just get rid of the blood, don't put blood when Batman throws people against walls and crushes skulls
Right.
and stuff like that, but the rest of them are fine, like jump his car into a bunch of trucks and stuff like that, that's all fine, but like no
Right.
blood, that's all. And it's like if that would have came out, then would that still been a PG-13, and then we wouldn't have had an Ultimate Edition? And it's just
Right.
it's interesting to think about, because even at not 3 hours in length, like I mean, I have issues with Zack Snyder and the third act personally. Like that's one of my peeves is like after watching Man of Steel, like Man of Steel should have ended like right like before the big Zod fight. Like when he goes down in the ship, that's when he should have fought Zod in a small fight and killed him there, because it just goes on for another about 20 minutes, and it's just like
Right, right,
and
exactly.
it's good, it's great, just like Batman versus Superman. You get Wonder Woman in the last 20 minutes. I wouldn't trade that for anything, but it's still like it feels almost like a tacked on extra 20 minutes to both of these movies, and it's strange that it feels that way, because it's like if Doomsday would have just flown off, that could have been the next Superman movie, and then we could have had a Batman movie in between, a Justice League movie coming out, and then a little more time to breathe.
So cool. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's it's interesting, all the threads that you could go, all the directions they could have done their DC. We would have had maybe a very different DC universe than we do now. Nary a Superman in sight, but Aquaman, The Trench, Shazam, Black Adam, we have all these movies coming out now. And Superman, not so much. Not so much.
Yeah. I think I'm not entirely sure, because it's like I don't know. It was hard to pay attention while also listening to the Vero commentary for the
Sure.
Ultimate Edition. But I think that the conversation that Martha has with Clark in the field, when she says, "Be anything you want, or don't be anything. Choose to save them or don't," right? Like when she has that conversation that people had a lot of problems with, I don't think that's in the Ultimate Edition. I think that's cut from the Ultimate, because I don't think they have that long talk. It's a small talk in the field, but I don't think it's a long talk in the field. Am I wrong?
Right.
Like
I don't remember now that you mention it.
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
But
it didn't
yeah.
stand.
Like, because it stood out to a lot of people I remember in the theatrical version where it's like, oh no, like Jonathan already said, it's like, oh, don't save people in Man of Steel, right? And then it's like, oh, now his mom is saying it. And I have a little bit of issue with Lois basically like sounding like Jonathan Kent at the very beginning of this movie, where she's like,
Right.
like, I'm glad you saved me, but there are consequences to your actions. It's like, that's like the one line where it's like, that's not really Lois. Like, that doesn't sound like Lois to me. Like, that sounds a little more Jonathan Kenty. But
Right. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, that is a Jonathan Kent thing to say. And especially after Man of Steel, I think she kind of went through that arc with him and understands that it's a different world now, at least in this Batman v Superman. So, yeah, and I'm trying to remember, but I can't remember much of that if that scene in the field is there.
well, if you can't remember, that must mean I'm right then, or I'll take it as I'm
I
right.
guess so. You can take it as a right.
Yeah.
Take it there.
Yeah. I just won. So let's see. Diana gets a lot more too. Like a little bit, like
Right.
a little bit more in Zack puts a long shot in the museum sequence where where Jon Stewart's introduced, and he tells his little joke, and they talk about the sword, but Perry and when you're talking about Clark's journalism, get that added scene of Clark going to Gotham in the Ultimate Edition, because that's not in the Ultimate Edition. And the way they played in the theatrical is Perry comes to the bullpen and he gives him the football assignment, like he gives it to him, and then Clark fights for the Batman assignment, and Perry goes, no, nobody cares about Batman. Nobody cares about that. And then he doesn't do the football assignment. He gets yelled at, and it plays a little differently in the Ultimate Edition, where Perry doesn't really give him the football assignment. I think he's just like your sports or whatever. Like you're like whatever, you have an assignment. He has an assignment, and it's more that he just goes off on his own and investigates, and it plays a little more like Clark is actually investigating into Bruce and into the Batman and trying to figure out exactly what is going on and why he's a little more violent than I think he used to be. Because I think Clark notices that. I think that's something that Clark realizes once he knows who Bruce is and that he's Batman.
Yeah. Again, it's just more stuff for Superman to do. More stuff that we talked about like Jimmy Olsen and the expectations of character. Where when we hear he's a CIA agent and he's taken out, it does something differently to us. But then when we see Clark Kent doing what we know and we believe Clark Kent would do, which is investigating and going out and being a reporter and then finding more to do and who Batman is. And he does go to Gotham now, and he kind of, I noticed that as well, Kyle. Like he was more clear in the theatrical. It's like, you're on sports now, go cover the game. But here he's just like doing it because he's Superman. So again, it fits in and fills in. It fills in blanks. I love that. And you see a lot more to do with it. And it is him going. Am I right? It's him investigating Batman, but he goes to the wife and the son of a criminal that was branded by Batman.
Well, I think that's later. That's later on.
Is that later? Oh, is that later?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. A little bit later, and then because the first one is like the he's like in a tenement. Like it's after like the.
Oh right,
like it's
yeah.
Kind of more early on.
Okay.
But yeah, there and then like
all good stuff.
Yeah, and then like one of the greatest like great. It's not even like it's not much changed from the Ultimate Edition, but it's still a great scene, and it is the first time Clark, Bruce, and Lex all meet together. They have this like it's just this great like tension because like I'm not entirely convinced if Bruce knows that that's Superman. I think he's probably got an inclination. At the very least, he's got an inclination. But Clark definitely knows he's Batman because he's heard him through the earpiece, and he's like, okay, right. So billionaire. Through the earpiece, he's kind of figured it out. And then Lex comes up, and like I think this is one of the scenes where Lex is probably the best in the movie. Like he's got this kind of like manic energy, and you can see the difference, like the height difference between him and the stature difference, and why he's trying to be like these people, like these two people that he's invited to the thing, because Lex knows Batman is Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he's the one who's. It's much clearer in the Ultimate Cut. Another thing is that he's much clearly orchestrating all of this from above, and that he is the real one who's pulling all the strings for everything.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. Give more to do. Just more stuff in there. I'll take it.
Definitely. So I have a question. Martha.
Yes.
What do you think of the Martha scene?
I'm on right. I've never had a problem with it. It's like I knew exactly what Zack Snyder was going for. It's that when he says save Martha, they share the same name, but it means that Batman finally realizes that Superman is human. That it is a son. And that Martha moment pulls him back from rage, from doing something that he was going to beat Superman. He was going to kill Superman. Mm-hmm. And I think that shows an understanding of the source material, because Batman has bested Superman with his mind and has done it here. And that it also shows the humanity is that is Batman figuring it out, and then the humanity pulling him back into it. Which is Batman always walks that line. So I've never had a problem with this Martha scene that a lot of people have. Mm-hmm. In the two, I don't know if did you pick up on anything substantially different?
In the Ultimate for the Martha scene? Not
in the Ultimate for the
not for the scene in particular. I mean, there's a little bit of extra for the fighting scenes. They extended them a little bit, but sure. I noticed this when I was watching them, and I think it's like the best comparison to make, because it's another middle of the trilogy sequel that had a main character go down a path that wasn't the path that he originally was on. He's a hero. He is looked up to by lots of people, and he must find his way again. by confronting what's wrong with him. And I'm not talking about The Last Jedi. I'm talking about Batman versus Superman. And I just think it's a crazy, strange parallel that I noticed. And I really loved it because it's so clear that to me, like, and that Zack Snyder wanted to show a Batman who's lost his way. Like, I mean, there's a reason Jason Todd's Robin suit is in the Batcave and it's still got the Joker paint on it. Like, this guy is like, he's broken. He is near the end and stuff has happened to him where it's just finally there's something that he definitely cannot control in an alien that comes out of nowhere. It's like, if he can't keep his ward safe, his virtually his son safe, how can he keep the rest of the world safe from aliens? So he, like, I understand his hatred and his worriness that he gets about Superman, but the fact that, like, I don't mind the Martha thing because it's like it's just, he would have said mom if they didn't have the same name, but like it's just a connection. It's just like the perfect connection that, like, that's the only way you're going to snap through it. And I would have preferred that we get the Batman origin story now rather than at the beginning of the movie. Like, if we, like, I wanted the movie to start with Batman landing, running into the city and running into that cloud. Like, I think that's the perfect opening for the movie. And then you show the Batman scene with Jeffrey Dean Morgan when Clark yells out Martha, and Batman flashes back to that because he's being reminded that he is now Joe Chill. Like, he is now the person that is causing the pain, and that is doing the wrong thing, and that he's gone so far down a path that he can still change. So I think like that's why it's like I really love the Martha moment. Like, I think it works. It's a little clunky, but I love The Last Jedi and I love Rise of Skywalker. So if I don't love clunky dialogue, then I don't know what. So
you like what you like. That's
I like
what's
Chris
great
Terrio,
about
apparently.
movies.
I like Chris Terrio, apparently.
But that's fine. Yeah, you got some Batman v Superman, Justice League, and then Rise of Skywalker there with Terrio. But yeah, I like what I like as well, and this while being a little wonky for sure, it's a little jarring to be like, huh? But at the same point, I get what he was going for. I love that comparison to Luke and losing his way, and that's what Bruce is. I think it's strong. I think it's not all there in the text, but I think you can get it by watching it and getting more deep, and that's what this ultimate cut is that you get more specific and you get more you get immersed a lot more, so these moments might land with you a little bit different, like the Martha moment.
But yeah, so I mean, is there anything else at all that you want to say about Batman versus Superman before we wrap it up here today, Mark?
Well, I know it's a divisive movie, but in the end, it is so much better than Justice League from what we got.
I'll agree with you on
that one. Are you kidding me? You got yourself an epic deep dive into Batman and Superman. You got Wonder Woman towards the end there, but really, I see what Zack Snyder was trying to do, and I admire the swings that this movie took. And in the end, I think it's one of the great comic book movies. It really is. It's different. What I love so much about it is that it's coming out at a time where Marvel kind of reinvented the superhero genre by putting together these heroes and making the shared universe and showing that you can do it. It can be done. And DC, for what it's worth, they did want their shared universe, and some will say, oh, they jumped the gun a little too much. Well, maybe. But it's really good. And it's so different. And so the reason I bring up Marvel is because the reason I loved this movie and loved Man of Steel and Wonder Woman, when you look at those three, is that they were so different than Marvel, what they were doing. It was more, sure, grounded, but it had a lot more, for me, it had a lot more stakes in it because it felt a little more real world and gritty and complex and all these different things that I love in movies. So highly recommend this, especially the ultimate cut over the theatrical cut. This movie is damn good. Give it a chance.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think the ultimate cut is definitely the better version of this movie. I think that it holds up better, and I think that it accentuates all the characters a lot better than the theatrical cut. Okay, so Mark, thank you very much for joining me today and for breaking down this movie and being the first guest on my very first podcast. And I really appreciate it, and I hope that you got something out of this like I did.
I enjoyed being here, Kyle. Excuse me. Good to talk about Superman and Batman. More Superman, please. Thank you for the Ultimate Cut, because it gave me more Superman.
Awesome. Yeah, where can people find you, Mark?
Well, you can find me at Reilly Around on Twitter. That's where I do all of my social media sharing. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/Mark Reilly Roundtable. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Reilly Roundtable. Those are all the good ones to follow. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you guys join us next time, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Awesome. We're good. Clear.
Thanks, dude.